Hey, it's me again, Ed from Ford Office Technologies. We're going to have another one of those things where I talk about some tech. Some of it hopefully will make some sense to you, but it'll at least be fun for me. Hopefully it'll be fun for you too. I'm going to start off with a little bit of a story. I was sitting at dinner the other night with friends that we haven't seen in a while, and they said, hey, I understand you changed jobs. And I said, I did. And they said, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm the CIO of a managed service provider. And they said, what's that? So I sat down and I explained what managed service provider is, and kind of breaking it down the same way for that person, I'll break it down for you. Managed service provider means that you found in your company a need for IT, but you don't quite have the resources to do it on your own. Maybe you don't know that you're big enough to support your own person. Maybe you don't understand the technology. Maybe you don't understand the future of technology. So you look for someone who can manage that service for you. And there's a bunch of different services, and we'll get into those later. But the idea behind a managed service provider is how can you effectively get everything done in your company from an IT perspective without having to hire and manage your own people. One of the big benefits of having a managed service provider is we're never sick. We never take PTO. We never call off. We're never cranky. And you never have to worry about downtime or any of those things with a managed service provider. So once he understood that, he actually said, I think I need a managed service provider. Let's get into a little bit more of the benefits of a service provider. One of the things that's really important to understand is how big and vast IT is. IT drives the entire economy of the United States in one way, shape, or another, whether it's a computer you're using, internet you're using, whether it's cell phone, mobile devices, whatever it is, it comes back to technology. There's hardly any business that doesn't run anymore without vast amounts of technology. Some is simple, some is complicated. What's really important is understanding how you can benefit by using a managed service provider. The number one thing that prevents you from being hacked is having your computers patched properly. Whether it's patching of the operating system, patching of Office, patching of other programs that are on your computer. So one of the benefits of a managed service provider is that we know all the different facets that you don't have to go learn on your own. It could be patching, it could be security, it could be end user troubleshooting, it could be hardware troubleshooting, server troubleshooting, network troubleshooting. It takes 35 technicians working in my department to properly manage a client. Could you imagine having to have that many different talents or skill sets on your staff? It'd be very expensive, as well as you have to worry about all the time and money you put into that person just to have them leave for a better career opportunity. So the benefits of a managed service provider is we keep the cost down, but we provide you the best possible scenario for all of your different IT needs, especially looking at the future. You may have noticed I got a little bit of extra jewelry on today, and what this does is it kind of proximity releases my password to my computer. And what I mean by that is I took the other day, as I was locking and unlocking my computer, 2 attempts to unlock my computer, which I do because proper security says have a super long password. We talked about that in previous videos. So to have a super long password, I probably get it wrong once out of every 3 times and I have to retype it. I calculated how long I spend throughout a week unlocking and locking my computer because I want it to lock when I walk away. I want it to unlock when I get close to it. I don't want to be away from my computer for very long before it locks so that no one can sit down and do it, or should a hacker get to my computer, it's already in a locked condition, making it a little bit more difficult for them to take advantage of me. So I calculated roughly I spend 37 hours a year locking and unlocking my computer, almost a 40-hour work week. This little device remembers who I am. It remembers my password. 4 times a year I have to type my password in. The rest of the time, when I get within 3 feet of my computer, it unlocks. When I get 5 feet away from my computer, it locks behind me. So these are some of the things that you might never know even exist if you don't have a managed service provider looking at the future of your business. All right, let's specifically get into a little bit of the detail about managed IT, because you might be wondering, I wonder if I need managed IT, kind of like my friend was at dinner the other night. There's some basic things like a user needing their password reset, can't get on the internet, locked myself out, my hard drive seems to be filling up, my computer's running a little slow. That's called managed support. That's the first place that we touch an end user. 2 types of managed support: remote managed support or on-site managed support. Really all depends on what you need as an end user. And sometimes we'll hybrid that and we'll do a remote support, and then when we can't fix that, we come on site. Remote support allows us to look into the computer, it allows us to take control of the computer, look at its patching, look at how much space is left on the hard drive, figure out why you're having a problem. It allows us remotely to quickly get there. So if you call into a help desk and you're looking for a managed service, that help desk should be configured to where they can quickly grab a hold of your computer, troubleshoot your problem, and get you back to work as quickly as possible. Some of the better providers will actually be able to do that in what's called silent mode. You'll be able to remote into your computer while you're still working on it, fix your problems in the background, and come out of that computer and you'll just have a better experience without that problem ever occurring again. So you really want to be able to look for providers that have the ability to remotely manage your computer for most times and then come on site and support them. That's remote. The next one is managed network. Managed network are the switches, the routers, the firewalls, the things that protect you from a connectivity and security perspective. So that's a managed network. Managed network will allow us to adjust your firewalls, we'll make sure your switches are working right, we'll also include your access points, it gives you your Wi-Fi. So managed network is not the PCs, but the whole network that controls the entire environment in your company. That's a managed network. You've got remote managed services, on-site managed services, and then you've got network managed services. Next thing we get into is managed compliance. Managed compliance is a big deal nowadays. It could be HIPAA compliance, it could be FTC compliance, it could be WISC compliance for financial institutions or tax institutions, but everybody's now falling under compliance. Why? Because our stuff is ending up on the dark web. So the government, they want us to make sure that our information is secure and not being sold to the highest bidder on the web. In order to do that, they've released these compliance packages that we now, as a managed service provider, help you stay compliant with, whether it's PCI credit card compliance, whether it's HIPAA compliance, whether it's compliance about any personal information that's being shared. So there's a whole managed compliance where we do the work for you so that you don't have to. Remember a little while ago I said it's really expensive to have 33 different skill sets and different talents on there. It's extremely expensive to have a managed compliance officer work for your company, which is why we've developed this service to keep it cost effective for you, but still provide you the best managed compliance service you possibly can. Then there's managed security, all the things that the hackers will go after. Your patching, your advanced email protection, different things about web filtering. Maybe your end users don't lock themselves up, but you're worried about being ransomed or you're worried about being hacked. So we developed a managed security package that allows us just to handle the security end of your environment while you handle the simple user lockouts and things like that. So we've developed all these different packages because not everything fits for everybody. And it's really important that we also know how to make sure we can mix and match these packages for you so that you get the best service you possibly can without that super expensive IT guy in-house. With all those packages, what's the most common? Or perhaps because you're working on a budget and you're new to IT management, what do we see you starting at first? Remote management is usually the best place to start. It allows us to get a good control of your environment, start the patching process, make sure you're secure from that point, and quickly get into your computers and work a problem for you without coming on site and having that added expense. Remote support, one of our most favorite places to start. An up-and-coming favorite is dark web monitoring. This is a really cool feature. What we do is we take the domain that you have for your company and we watch it for usernames and passwords leaking out onto the dark web. And typically, as a service, we will run a dark web monitoring scan for companies, meaning let's say you're at yahoo.com. I take yahoo.com, I put it into my dark web filter, and it will tell me all the Yahoo usernames and passwords that have been put on the dark web for sale. Because most hackers don't ever do anything with your data. They take your data so they can sell it to someone else because they want one layer of separation between them and the actual failure or the actual theft. So most of your information doesn't get used by the hacker, it gets used by the hacker to put on the dark web so the next hacker can take the information and do something with it. So we monitor people's domains via dark web, and we know immediately when a username and password has been put on the dark web for transmission or for sale to someone else, and we notify the client to hurry up and change that username and password. That's one of our newest, most popular services is dark web monitoring. Ed, what would you do if you were picking a managed service provider? That's a great question. Here's what I would tell you. It's important to know that it's not just a guy. I really love some of the talent that I've met at some of the other companies that we come across with as colleagues and competitors, but I don't like knowing it's the guy. I don't like knowing there isn't bench strength. I want to see a good structure in a department of tier 1, remote and on-site. I want to see a tier 2, I want to see a tier 3, I want to see a good escalation process so that anytime there's a problem, there's never a running out of steam moment for that managed service provider. That's really important. I also want to see regional distribution of that. I don't want to see one office in one area where it's a 45 to 90 minute drive every time they leave the office to get to me. I want to see someone who's starting to regionalize their support so that they can make sure that if I open up an office somewhere else, I don't have to wait for a 2-hour drive for a technician. So bench strength is really important to me. Knowing that that provider has developed a regional thought process when it comes to taking care of support, really important. And then how much do they put into training? Are they really training their staff Do they have a regimented training program? Are their technicians getting smarter during their downtime? And then what is their ticketing time? And that's okay to ask a service provider. How long does it take you to get to an average client? And how long before you actually fix the client? Should be about 10 to 15 minutes on the phone before your problem's gone, and maximum should be much faster on some of them. And that provider should be able to get back to you within 10 to 15 minutes of you either putting in an email or calling, worst case scenario. Anything more than that, they're not staffed appropriately to handle your support. A colleague asked me the other day, what's the difference between what you do and the cloud? Well, let's talk about what the cloud is first, because the cloud sometimes, well, the subject gets a little cloudy. The cloud simply means on someone else's computer, just not on yours. The cloud could be in our computer room in the back. The cloud could be down the street at a warehouse. The cloud is just not on your computer. So when you look at managed services, there's two types. There's managed services where everything is brought to you and it's on your computers in your environment in your building. And then there's cloud services where the provider takes all of that work, puts it into another computer environment, and they manage the environment. The benefits between one or the other I'll go through right now. If you had 4 servers in your building and you had a bunch of equipment that was running your environment, you'd also have to have someone in your building that could run those servers or take care of them. Maybe that's a managed provider that has to take a trip out to your building. Maybe that's someone on your staff that's kind of the IT guy, but you have to manage that. If all those items are moved into the cloud, there's a team that's with that cloud computing. In our facility, it's a very large data center that is right outside of our department, and that 30 plus technicians are supporting that data center. So there's no working to get to the data center. We're here with the equipment at the cloud center, and we're taking care of that before you even have a problem. It picks up speed, it picks up fault tolerance, it picks up all types of benefits by moving to the cloud, as well as typically it reduces your cost. The cost of 4 Dell servers today might be $30,000 or $40,000. The cost of 4 servers in a cloud might be a third of that throughout the life cycle of that equipment. And you don't have to worry about, is my equipment getting old? That's typically on the cloud provider. So if you had a chance, move to the cloud when possible. But here's what's really important. Get a good managed service IT provider, and they'll let you know which one's best for you. That's a little bit about managed IT services. Hope that I've brought some clarity to maybe some questions that you've been having. However, don't forget, I'm always available almost 24 hours a day. Just send me a note. Maybe something at the bottom of this video might have a link for you to send to me. I'd be happy to answer any questions that maybe I didn't address today, but hopefully that's a little bit on managed services.